Welcome to lesson 2. Today we're going to talk about the vibrational ladder. So on your worksheet, you see that it starts at 20 at the low end of shame and goes all the way up to 700 enlightenment. And we've got right there in sort of the neutral position at 250 of the vibrational frequency. So even remaining neutral about something is basically where alignment starts. Okay, so just feeling satisfied is enough to create the kind of momentum that it is that you're seeking. So we're going to have to look at a couple of ideas and sort of get into alignment with these ideas in order for this lesson to make the most sense. And the first of those is that we are soul beings having a temporary human experience. Okay? So our souls are infinite. They're never born, they never die. We incarnate these bodies for the purpose of coming here on this planet. I call it school. Okay? We come to earth to go to school. Our souls come here to go to school. So as a soul being, that means we've got to come from somewhere, and that source energy is where we come from. Now you can call it God, you can call it universe, you can call it creator. Whatever word resonates best with you is totally fine. So, and then we have to come to the understanding that source energy, which is our creator, which is where we come from, where we originate from, is pure love and light. And to try to understand from a human perspective the magnificence that is our creator it's just incomprehensible. The love and light energy that our creator is and that we are a part of. Every one of us has that part of that creator inside of us, okay? As extensions of this energy, our natural state is also love and light. That is our natural state. Left to our own devices, that's how we would stay, but instead we encounter other people, we encounter experiences, etc. And whether or not you believe in soul contracts, you might know that we have a soul family that we travel with, we've incarnated with before. Sometimes we've been masculine, sometimes we've been feminine, sometimes we've been the mom, sometimes the dad, sometimes the brother. We've taken on different roles with our soul family, and we agreed upon, and again, this is if you believe in soul contracts, we agreed upon certain lessons and experiences that we wanted to have in this particular lifetime. And the purpose of that is for soul expansion and growth. A lot of times we say, okay, what is my purpose here on earth? And the purpose is oneness. The purpose is unity. The purpose is to remember who you are, which means that you're going to come into this earth, you're going to come into this experience, you're going to experience contrast, and that in that experiencing, it's going to help you reach for, something better, reach for who you really are. And so a lot of times the spiritual community, the law of attraction, those types of teachers, talk about only positive thoughts, positive, positive, positive. And, if we go back to, oneness, there is no such thing as positive or negative. There is no duality in oneness. And if we are all extensions of God, and we are all then one consciousness, we are one all together. There is no good or bad. We're all here to experience the contrast and to reach back into who we truly are. A quick example of this. Let's say we were in a room right now having this workshop, and I said to you, everybody, point to yourself. Show me, where are you? Not one person in the room would go, right here, hey, over here, look, it's me, right here. No, of course, where we basically identify who we are as right here a lot of times before we are awakened or enlightened. This is how we identify ourselves and in our ego. The truth is, if we were in this workshop and I said, point to yourself, every person would go, hey, I'm right here. Me, over here. See me? And that's because that's where our soul self resides. So when people say, really listen to your heart, what they're saying is listen to the inner being, the bigger, more powerful, more amazing part of you that is non-physical. It's invisible. You can't see it. But that's who you truly are. That extension of source energy resides right here. And so when we're getting in touch with ourselves, we want to release this part, this false person that we think we are, and really connect with the true identity, the soul self of who we truly are. Okay? So in order to get, again, the most out of this particular exercise or lesson, it's really understanding that, the bigger part of you is the infinite being that is the extension of source or creator or universe or God. So being this is a universe designed on attraction, we have to understand, it's important to start realizing and coming to the awareness that contrast has value, that contrast is actually a good thing, and that it's not things happening to you, but it's things happening for you, okay? So if we're looking at our vibrational chart here, we can identify that emotions really only have two sources. One is love, one is fear. Okay, so if we're in love or our natural state, that means we're in alignment, meaning we're in alignment with our inner being, with our soul self, with who we really are. And when we're in alignment, we're only ever going to have emotions that align with love. We're going to look at ourselves as perfect. We're going to look at ourselves as magnificent. We're going to look at ourselves as being worthy. And we can look at ourselves as perfect because what's the truth of perfect? Perfect to me is different than perfect to you, but why can't I be my own version of perfect, right? So again, this is moving out of the ego brain into the understanding that who we really are is created in the image of source, and that is perfection, which is pure love and light. Okay, so we're only going to ever have emotions that fall in one of those two categories, love or fear. If we're having an emotion that's coming from the place of fear, what that tells us is that there's a wound there. So we don't get triggered unless there's a wound. Okay, so somebody could say something and you just look at it and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't believe that. So there's no emotional response. There's no fear, negative response to it because there's no wounding that needs to be healed there. But for example, having grown up at 13, I was 6 feet tall. And yes, great fun, right? So in school, of course, I got teased for my size, and all of my girlfriends got to exchange clothes, and I just couldn't wear my friends' clothing because I was bigger than they were. And I wore a size 10 shoe, and everybody else was in a 7 or an 8. And so it's like, okay, I had this block. I had this bad body image, negative body image about being big. And so as having red hair, sometimes my friends would like to call me Big Red. And it was a trigger for me for a very long time. I'd say, you can call me Red, but don't call me Big. And that was because I have this wounding about body image. And that came from a place of fear. It came from a place of hurt. It came from a wound. And so when those words were said and it triggered that response, using this information, I was able to go in and heal it. So let's take a look at the process. Okay? What happens is, as we experience contrast, and remember, contrast is beneficial because we can't fully know what it is that we do want until we're very clear on what we don't want. And so the idea when the universe was created is, well, let's bring them into this experience, have them find some contrast, and as a part of the expansion and the growth, they'll experience the contrast and then they'll reach for something better, something from love, something from alignment. okay? And what happened is we got wounded, and then those wounds were never healed. And so then we have hurt people raising hurt people, broken people raising broken people. And so we've been programmed to think that we're not supposed to express emotion. We've been programmed to think that expressing emotion is weak, being vulnerable is weak. And, of course, that can't be further from the truth. It is dangerous to hold on to these kinds of emotional traumas and experiences, because those things can then manifest into disease. And we'll talk about that further on. So the goal of each experience is, first of all, to recognize the emotional response. Okay, here, somebody said big. All right, how does that make, and I'm having a reaction to that, okay? I'm looking on the chart. Where does this make me feel? Well, it makes me feel a little bit of anger. It makes me feel a little bit of anger that I don't look like everybody else. And there's something wrong with me. And I was teased about this. And it's bringing up those emotions, maybe even a little bit of shame. Feeling a little ashamed of looking differently and being teased and not ever having the ability to express that. Okay, so I'm finding myself in anger about being called big. So I allow the emotion to fully be expressed or felt. And it's like, all right, this doesn't feel good. So I say, all right, first of all, is this even true? Am I not good? If I'm out of alignment, what would my inner being say? Because your inner being is never going to join you in these negative emotions. Your inner being will always stay in alignment with what is true. And what is true is that you're perfect exactly how you are. And that God made me in this size for a reason. There's nothing wrong with my size. Okay? And so once I go back in and clear those wounds out, but I'm coming back to the alignment of, okay, this isn't even true. So here I am. Where is this? Where am I experiencing? Where did this come from? Where did this belief of out of alignment come from? So you recognize where in my body I'm feeling it, where it came from, and then we say, okay, this is making me feel uncomfortable. What is this here to teach me? Okay, this is here to teach me that people come in different sizes. This is here to teach me that my height is a benefit. People tell me all the time, I wish I could be, as tall as you. So why am I grabbing onto these other things instead of onto the positive things, right? It's just programming. And so I'm looking at, what is this here to teach me? Okay, now I've recognized I have a trigger. I know I now have this wound that needs to be healed. So I go in and I express gratitude for the experience, and then I release the emotion, whether that means to cry about it and just sort of offer forgiveness, whether that means to, go out and go for a run and just sort of burn off the energy that way, do some yoga, do some journaling, dancing, whatever it is, however you want to express that emotion until you find yourself back into alignment with the truth, which is finding your inner self and saying, okay, this is where I want to spend my time. I want to be in alignment with love. Okay, so in your exercise here, this is really the process of when you're going through and identifying where you might find some of these wounds or some of these triggers and looking at this vibrational ladder. We want to go first of all into writing down some past or current experiences that may have caused some pain, like the one I gave you the example about. Think of the event and write down what your thoughts are about the experience. The truth of the matter is, why would these kids make fun of me just because I looked differently? Probably because they were intimidated, right? Well, is that really a bad thing? That gives me power. And they were trying to take away my power because they felt small. They felt different. When truly, I was the tall one, so I was kind of the different one, but at the same time, they felt different, so they felt intimidated by that, if we're really looking at the truth of it. So those are the thoughts about the experience, right? Write down how you feel about it. Where in your body do you feel it? Where does that emotional wounding still sit? Where are you still holding on to that? When I did the clearing behind this particular wound, it sat right in my right hip. I had been experiencing a ton of pain. And when I went into there, that's where I discovered that emotional wounding was still residing. Got that cleared out. I haven't had any right hip pain in a long time since I cleared it. Okay. So just so you know that these kinds of things can show up in an emotional manifestation, in a physical manifestation, or an energetic manifestation. And for this particular one, it was in a physical manifestation of pain in my right hip. Once I cleared it out, again, it was gone. So then looking back at it now, what was this experience here to teach me? With compassion for myself and others, how did this help me? And, you know, I can look at it now and say, well, it helped me understand that, you know, I was very compassionate towards other people who had differences. And I was the kid in school who kind of reached out to other people that were also being made fun of. And so for me, it gave me an opportunity to express compassion and empathy for others. So that was one of the different ways that I can express, or that I learned from that experience. So then next, you want to offer forgiveness for anyone involved, including yourself, and saying, hey, look, they were kids. They didn't understand. They were probably intimidated by me. That can be a power for me. So let's offer this forgiveness. Let's offer this release. I don't need to hold on to that story anymore. I mean, for Pete's sake, it happened 30 years ago. Why do I need to hold on to that now? Why am I still 30 years later reacting to a word that doesn't make any sense? It's not active in my life anymore. Okay. So, but because that trauma was still there and hadn't been fully expressed, it creates triggers. And that's how you know you have a wound. And so then I decided to rewrite the story. Well, what does that mean? Well, if I'm the only person in my head thinking things and it's my past to remember, what I chose to rewrite was that my schoolmates thought I was a model. Yeah, that's a much better story than the one that actually happened. And so I just rewrote the story. I released it and I rewrote that it was a good experience, you know? And so depending on how attached you are to it is whether this will work for you or not, or how much, you know, and even if I just want to rewrite the story to say, you know, they gave me a hard time, but I understand they were just intimidated by the power of my size, and how can I use the power of my size to my advantage now? So you can rewrite it any different way that you want to. Feel free to have some creative license with that, okay? So here, that's a great example. I also wrote another example there about an ex-husband that was very abusive. And, you know, being teased about my size, I was timid. I was not in my full expression of my power when we got together, because I was very young when we got married and had my son. And so he was able to, you know, to teach me through this experience. I can look back at it now and say, you know, he really taught me how to stand up for myself and come into my full power and set healthy boundaries. And so I can look at that, you know, perceived negative experience with compassion and love now and offer forgiveness for the experience, because obviously we're here. Nothing of this happened by accident. And I'm here to find alignment. And so this vibrational ladder experience and exercise is all about understanding that you do have a choice. Find where these things are and let's start the process of healing them. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of your examples and anything that you'd like to share.